Do you ever just feel, I don't know, like you're drowning sometimes? Like you're juggling way too much, always rushing, just perpetually busy,
Hmm.
constantly trying to have it all, but mostly just wearing yourself completely thin.
Oh, absolutely. You are definitely not alone in feeling that way.
It seems so common.
It's almost become the standard way of operating for so many people today, hasn't it? Living at those, faster and fastest speeds our source talks about.
Absolutely. And that feeling, that sense of being overwhelmed and stretched thin, well, that's exactly what this deep dive is all about today.
Yeah.
We're plunging into this really powerful idea of simplifying life,
Mm.
looking for a way to, I guess, cut through all that relentless noise and just find some genuine breathing room.
And our main guide for this exploration is Elaine St. James's book, Living the Simple Life, A Guide to Scaling Down and Enjoying More. It's really insightful. We've basically distilled the key insights from her work to see what simplifying really means. And crucially, how you might actually start creating a simpler life, right where you are now.
That's the mission, yeah,
Yeah.
to unpack the core wisdom from this source and make it actionable, make it something you can actually use. And the author's own story is, well, it's a perfect starting point, isn't it?
It really is. She wasn't some hermit living off grid from the start. No, she was a typical urban professional, totally on the fast track.
Right.
Life dictated by this really complicated time management system, living at those super high speeds. And it wasn't until this specific moment back in 1990 that she just stopped, looked at their whole system, and had this stark realization. Her life had simply become way too complicated.
Wow. Just a moment of clarity.
Exactly. And that realization, that was the spark. That's what ignited her own journey to simplify.
Okay, so let's jump right into that core idea then. When people hear simplify, I think, they often picture something pretty extreme.
Like moving to a cabin.
Yeah, exactly. Quitting your job, moving off grid. How does this source define it? What is it really about? And maybe just as important, what is it not about?
That's such a crucial distinction, and the book makes it right away. It's very clear. Simplifying is not necessarily about dropping out completely or, moving to the woods, giving away everything you own, or retiring super early.
Okay.
I mean, those can be personal choices people make along the way, sure, but they aren't the universal definition of simplifying, at least not according to this book.
Okay, so you don't have to move into that tiny 400 square foot cabin with no running water. Although I think the book does mention someone who did exactly that and found it worked for them.
Huh. Yes, it does. And that kind of illustrates one end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But the core message, the book really argues, is about creating a simpler life right where you are.
Right here, right now.
Yeah, within your current environment, with your family, your friends, your job, whatever that looks like for you.
And the real goal behind all this, what's the main objective the book points to? Why bother?
Well, it frames the main objective as gaining back something incredibly valuable: time and energy.
Ah, the big two.
Exactly. More time to actually enjoy life, maybe pursue your own dreams, or just be truly present with your loved ones to do things you genuinely want to do instead of feeling, perpetually obligated or rushed.
Which really speaks to why so many people seem to be craving this simplicity in the first place. The book suggests we've worn ourselves out, trying to have it all in a world that just throws seemingly endless options at us. What to buy, where to go, what to do, what to experience. It's exhausting.
Precisely. And it's not presented as some, magical cure-all for every single problem life throws at you.
Right.
But the author definitely positions it as a really fundamental, positive first step, a way towards gaining more control and ultimately finding deeper fulfillment.
Okay, let's unpack this then. If the goal is reclaiming time and reducing stress, especially for someone listening who feels like they have absolutely no spare time, where on earth does the book suggest you even begin? Sounds daunting.
Yeah, it can feel that way. The starting point the source really emphasizes is freeing up time specifically for deliberate thinking, just thinking about your life.
Okay, thinking time, not just doing time.
Exactly. And it outlines some really practical first steps. A lot of them are suggested as challenges to try for just 30 days.
30 days, like a little experiment. What kind of things are we talking about?
Well, they can feel pretty radical at first. Things like adjusting your work hours for just 1 month, maybe leaving an hour early or starting an hour later, purely to carve out that reflection time.
Wow.
Or skipping all social events for 30 days. Changing your exercise routines significantly, or maybe cutting it in half or just doing it at home instead of the gym trek. Simplifying meals, like really basic meals, and household chores.
Minimal laundry.
Minimal laundry, exactly.
Yeah.
Or even stopping certain types of reading for that month, things like maybe escape novels or even the daily newspaper. The idea is specifically to create mental space.
Stopping the daily paper.
Oh,
That feels surprisingly impactful. Just reducing that constant input.
it really is. It's about deliberately cutting back on the noise, the input, to allow space for, well, for your own thoughts to surface, for reflection.
Makes sense.
The book also suggests finding quiet spaces if, your home environment is just too chaotic. Libraries, a park bench, somewhere peaceful.
Or even something more drastic.
Yeah, like a temporary retreat, maybe a cheap motel room for a night, or borrowing a friend's quiet cabin if you can.
And the author has that classic story about her first attempt at one of these retreats, doesn't she? About overpacking.
Oh yes, it's so relatable. She goes off intending to simplify and think, right, but she ends up packing these two enormous satchels, just stuffed with clothes, books, snacks, all sorts of just-in-case items.
They've all done that.
Totally. And she realizes she spent part of the time just managing the baggage itself. And in the end, all she actually needed was like a change of clothes, a toothbrush, a pen, and a notebook. It became this really powerful metaphor for the whole process, You often need far, far less than you think to actually create that space for yourself.
That perfectly illustrates the point. Okay, so moving from time and mental space, let's tackle the tangible stuff. Getting rid of physical clutter. For many people, myself included sometimes, this feels like scaling Mount Everest.
Oh, it's a huge area, isn't it? Because we accumulate so much stuff over time. The source suggests starting with a pretty simple rule, maybe familiar. If you haven't used it in a year, get rid of it.
The 1-year rule.
Yeah. And maybe tackling common problem areas first, like closets seem to be a big one for people.
But as you said before, it's often not just about the stuff itself. It's tied up with memories, with our identity sometimes. It's hard to let go.
The book absolutely acknowledges that emotional side. It's not just things. It uses examples like, an Olympic swimmer's medals or your grandmother's china.
Things you can't just toss.
Exactly. It doesn't advocate for some kind of ruthless, cold minimalism just for the sake of it. If you truly can't bear to part with something meaningful, the point isn't that you have to get rid of everything.
So the real benefit then is freeing up the time it takes to manage the stuff, the energy it drains, the physical space it occupies.
Precise.
So you have more of those resources for things that actually contribute to your life now.
Exactly right. And the book offers some practical ways to make that whole process a bit easier. Like maybe start with smaller, less emotionally charged areas. The linen closet is a good one, often full of sheets for beds you haven't owned in years.
Guilty as charged.
Right. Or enlist help. Get a friend or family member, someone with, as the book puts it, strength of character to help keep you accountable.
Someone who won't let you waffle on those ancient concert t-shirts from college.
Exactly. Someone objective. Or, here's an interesting idea. Take pictures of items you can't keep but want to remember visually. It helps capture the memory without keeping the object.
That's smart.
The book also shares stories from people who've experienced something drastic, like a house fire. Often they realize afterwards how little they truly needed and only replaced the absolute essentials. It offers a really stark perspective on possessions.
Okay, so we clear out the old clutter, but how do you stop it from just creeping right back in? That feels like the harder part, changing the habits.
It really does. That's the ongoing work. The source suggests a few key strategies here for preventing future clutter from accumulating again. The 30-day list is a really good one.
The 30-day list, how does that work?
If you see a non-essential item, you think you want something significant, not like groceries, you don't buy it immediately, you write it down on a list and wait 30 days.
Ah, the cooling off period.
Exactly. And the magic there is after 30 days, you look at the list and see if you even remember why you wanted it, or if you still truly desire it.
Or if the impulse is just passed.
That's a huge part of it. It helps you distinguish between a genuine need or a long-term desire versus just an impulse buy, The book points out how advertisers spend literally billions training us to buy things we didn't even know existed 5 minutes ago. They create that impulse.
True.
The 30-day list helps cut through that noise.
I really like that. It's so practical. Another simple rule mentioned is the one in, one out policy.
Yes, that's a classic. For categories like clothes, books, maybe gadgets, when a new item comes into your home in that category, an old one has to leave.
Keeps things in equilibrium.
It does. Readers share how this single rule has been amazing for keeping their closets and bookshelves actually manageable, not overflowing. It forces you to make an active decision about value right at the point you acquire something new.
Instead of just letting it pile up.
hmm And the book also encourages looking for creative solutions before you just go out and buy something new to solve a problem.
Like the treadmill example.
That's a perfect illustration.
Yeah.
The author almost bought a treadmill for exercise, then realized that just adjusting her existing walking routine at the local park accomplished the same goal much more simply, and obviously at no cost.
So always pause and ask, is there a simpler, maybe free alternative first?
Exactly. Think creatively before consuming. And even for things like souvenirs, instead of bulky knickknacks that just gather dust, the book suggests collecting small, meaningful items. Maybe matchbooks or postcards from places you visit.
Less space still triggers the memory.
Right. They take up minimal space, but still give you that little reminder.
And there's also the idea of a deliberate moratorium on shopping altogether, like a shopping fast.
Yeah, trying a fixed period, maybe say 3 months, where you only buy absolute essentials, groceries, toiletries, that kind of thing. No discretionary spending.
Wow, that sounds intense.
It can be, but the author found it significantly reset her buying habits. It really reduced the temptation to just acquire things she didn't truly need and made her much more conscious of her consumption patterns afterwards.
Okay, here's where I think it gets really interesting. Simplifying isn't just about your stuff and your schedule. The book argues it's also deeply tied to how you interact with the world, with other people.
Mm-hmm.
It spends a surprising amount of time on the art of saying no.
It does, because it highlights how incredibly difficult this is for so many people. We say yes out of a sense of obligation, maybe guilt, or perhaps that classic FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Oh, FOMO is real.
Totally. The book uses this really relatable example of cousin Joannie, who keeps saying yes to invitations because she's afraid she'll miss something fun, only to find herself later regretting missing out on the quiet evening at home she actually craved more.
We've all been cousin Joannie at some point. So how does the source suggest we get better at saying no? Gracefully, but, effectively.
It offers different strategies, kind of depending on the relationship. With close friends, it suggests being honest. Just explain you're simplifying things right now and need to slow down your schedule. They'll likely understand.
Okay, what about acquaintances?
Be brief and direct. Something simple like, oh, thanks for the invite, but I'm not really doing lunch these days. Or my schedule's really full right now. No long explanations needed.
And then there are the crazy makers.
Yes, the book uses that term for people who consistently create chaos, drama, and just drain your time and energy. With them, the suggestion is to be firm, maybe even get a bit tough, and set really clear boundaries.
They're moving beyond the guilt. That feels like the real psychological hurdle here for many people.
It absolutely is. But the book offers a really powerful perspective shift. The person asking you, they'll likely move on very quickly.
Really?
Yeah. You showing up half-heartedly or resentfully isn't actually doing them a favor. And honestly, they're probably too busy with their own lives and schedules to dwell on your refusal for long. It matters way more to you than it does to them, usually.
It's actually quite liberating to think about. And what about dealing with unwanted interruptions more broadly, like salespeople, telemarketers?
The book gives some very practical, almost old-school tips sometimes. Things like getting an unlisted phone number if you can. Using 67 to block your caller ID when you make certain calls so you don't end up on lists.
Simple tech.
Yeah, or just putting up a clear, unambiguous no soliciting sign by your front door. It's about taking proactive steps to prevent being put on the spot with requests you don't want.
Okay, so protecting your time boundaries. What about simplifying communication itself? Technology can complicate things too.
Oh, definitely. The book talks about using technology intentionally. It has this interesting take on the simple answering machine. Remember those?
Vaguely.
It presents it as a form of audio email. The idea is using it purposefully for efficient, asynchronous communication with certain people. You leave detailed messages knowing they might not pick up live, and they do the same for you.
Avoids phone tag.
Exactly. And as a bonus, telemarketers almost always hang up on machines. The book also just briefly notes how easy it is to let email become another source of overwhelm, adding complexity if you're not mindful about how you use it.
And setting specific phone date times.
Yeah, another good one. Instead of endless back and forth calls, actually schedule a specific time to talk when it's truly convenient for both people, more efficient.
Makes sense. Okay, moving into the home itself. The book dives into some really practical tips for simplifying just daily household routines.
It does, like simple meal planning.
Tell me more about that.
Well, the idea is having a really simple weekly menu. Maybe you eat the same thing, or cycle through a very limited set of options each week, like Monday is pasta, Tuesday is tacos, etc.
Sounds potentially boring, but I see the appeal.
It might sound boring initially, but the benefits just cascade. Your grocery list becomes super simple and predictable. Shopping is faster. You have less decision fatigue trying to figure out dinner every single night. Cooking is streamlined. Cleanup is often easier.
It's one less major thing you have to think about every day.
Precisely. The book also mentions cooking ahead and freezing components or full meals, referencing things like once-a-month cooking and just keeping some decent quality frozen dinners on hand for those nights when you need maximum simplicity, plus built-in portion control.
Good point. And even weight maintenance gets a simple method in the book.
Yeah, it's surprisingly low-tech, just using a daily weight chart and a red pen.
A red pen.
Yeah. The source finds that simply tracking your weight daily on a chart and maybe circling gains in red is a remarkably effective way to stay accountable. You see trends immediately, and it makes it harder to ignore those little extras creeping in. Visual feedback.
Interesting. Any other little home simplification tips that stood out?
A few others mentioned are things like using gas fireplace logs for convenience instead of the whole process of dealing with wood, ash, cleanup.
Easier ambiance.
Definitely. Opting for duvet covers used almost like sleeping bags, just the duvet and its cover, maybe a fitted sheet. It makes bed making incredibly fast and simple, fewer layers to manage.
I like that one.
And some simple laundry strategies too, like putting identical socks for the family together in mesh bags before washing so you avoid the whole sorting nightmare later.
Sock matching is the worst.
Isn't it? Or partially machine drying clothes and then hanging them while still damp to cut down on wrinkles, ironing time, and even wear and tear on the fabric. And sticking to colors that don't easily run together simplifies loads.
Smart, practical stuff. Okay, finally in this section, financial simplification. The book revisits this with some clear advice. What are the key takeaways there?
It really emphasizes practical steps. Consolidating accounts, fewer bank accounts, fewer credit cards to manage, and critically, avoiding debt wherever possible. That's a huge simplifier.
For sure.
It highlights the efficiency of setting up automatic payments for all your recurring bills, mortgage, utilities, car payment, whatever. That drastically reduces the number of checks you have to write or manual online transfers you need to remember.
Set it and forget it, mostly.
Pretty much. Using credit or debit cards for tracking everyday expenses is also suggested because you get a statement. But, and this is the essential caveat,
Let me guess.
you absolutely must pay the credit card balance in full every single month. No exceptions. Otherwise, the interest charges completely negate the simplicity and add huge financial stress.
Right. Avoid the debt trap. And the author had a specific, maybe slightly counterintuitive view on financial software, like Quicken or similar programs.
Yes, she did. For the average household's finances, she actually found these programs added complexity rather than simplifying things.
Really? How so?
She felt they required too much time and effort each month categorizing every transaction, reconciling accounts compared to the simplicity you could achieve through just using automatic payments and disciplined credit card use, paid off monthly, of course. She argued they were often overkill, maybe better suited for more complex small business finances than typical personal budgeting.
Okay, so how do all these ideas of simplifying time, stuff, routines translate to one of the most, let's say, wonderfully complex areas of life for many of us? Parenting and family life.
Yeah, that's a big one. The source offers some core advice here that might actually seem a bit counterintuitive at first.
What's that?
Simplify your own life first.
Okay. How does that help with parenting?
Well, the argument is that if you, as the parent, manage to free up your own time, your own energy, your own mental space, then the inherent complexities of raising kids become much more manageable.
Ah, so you're not bringing your own stress into their world quite so much.
Exactly. By clearing away your own daily concerns and feelings of overwhelm, you're just less depleted. You can see your children's dilemmas, their needs, their challenges with better perspective, maybe more patience.
That makes a lot of sense. Be less reactive.
Be less reactive, more present. The book then gets into specific areas, like involving kids in household chores. It uses a lovely example from someone named Jennifer Sellers about teaching children to help.
What are keys to that?
Things like starting early, even with tiny tasks. Making it shared time, something you do together, not just delegating. expressing genuine gratitude for their help, giving younger kids short, very specific, manageable tasks, and really emphasizing that doing chores isn't just about helping you out. It's about them learning valuable life skills.
Building competence. And the book mentions John Roseman's observation about chores, how they've declined.
Yeah, it highlights his point about how much the prevalence of kids doing regular chores seems to have dropped off over just one generation.
Interesting.
Yet the benefits for a child's self-esteem, their sense of responsibility and contribution to the family unit are really significant. Another huge area the book addresses is curtailing extracurricular activities.
Oh, this feels incredibly relevant today. The whole phenomenon of overscheduling kids.
Totally. The book discusses this exact trend and shares some really powerful feedback from readers who deliberately cut back on the sheer number of activities their kids were doing.
What do they find?
The results were striking. They found their kids were less exhausted, unsurprisingly. Academics often improved. Their performance in the one or two activities they kept actually got better because they weren't spread so thin. Sibling relationships improved because there was more downtime together and there was just more quiet, unscheduled family time for everyone.
Wow. So the clear takeaway is you don't have to sign your kids up for everything. And maybe they don't want to do everything either. Less can genuinely be more.
Exactly. Quality over quantity. Another point made quite forcefully in the source, citing John Roseman again, is about monitoring TV viewing.
Okay, the screen time battle.
Right. The argument presented is that heavy TV viewing can be pretty detrimental. It tends to foster passive learning rather than active engagement. It can stifle creativity and initiative because entertainment is just delivered. And it can cultivate a dependence on external stimulation rather than kids developing their own internal resources for fun and engagement.
So the advice is pretty clear then. Limit the time, limit the content, and actively offer appealing alternatives.
Yes. The book even mentions a resource called 365 TV-free activities, just to help spark ideas for things kids can do instead. It's about providing concrete ways to fill that freed-up time constructively.
Good tip. Teaching kids about money management early is also emphasized, right?
Very much so. The book shares a few different approaches people have used. The author's own dad, for instance, taught her to save half her allowance automatically and then manage the rest weekly. That instilled really early budgeting skills.
Save first.
Another system mentioned from Mary Hunt involved kids saving 10%, giving 10% away, and then budgeting the remaining 80% for everything beyond basic room and board clothes, entertainment, gifts, everything.
Wow, that's teaching real-world budgeting.
It really is. It teaches them to handle larger sums and, maybe most importantly, to learn from the natural consequence of running out of money before the next allowance comes.
The School of Hard Knocks, gently applied.
Exactly. The core principle is just teaching them to handle money responsibly, to budget, and to learn from consequences, obviously adapting the system to their age and maturity level.
It's a simple but really profound skill to give them. Setting clear buying limits for kids, like for toys or candy when you're out, that's covered too.
Yes, very practically. The simple advice. Make the decision before you even go into the store. Communicate it clearly to the child. We're not buying candy today. Or you can choose one small toy under $5.
Set the expectation up front.
Right. Then stick to it, no matter the begging or tantrums. Consistency is absolutely key for this to work. Follow through.
And navigating the sheer volume of gifts, especially from well-meaning relatives. That example in the book of the friend whose kids were literally opening Christmas presents weeks early just because there were so many, that was startling.
It really highlights a common modern challenge, doesn't it? Just drowning in stuff, even gift stuff. The simple solution the book offers is gently suggest consumable gifts to relatives.
Consumable gifts, like what?
Things like homemade brownies, cookies, fudge, or maybe movie tickets, contributions to a savings account. Gifts that are enjoyed, maybe shared, and then they're gone, leaving only the pleasant memory, not more physical clutter to find space for and manage.
That's a great idea. Clever and reduces clutter. Finally, the book talks about cultivating simple values in kids. How does simplifying your own life help parents do that more effectively?
Well, it comes back to that freed up time and energy. When parents aren't constantly stressed and rushing, they have the bandwidth to actively teach and model appreciation for simple, often free, soul-filling activities.
Like what kind of activities?
Things like taking regular nature walks, trips to the library just to browse, having quiet time for reading or journaling together, encouraging creative pursuits like drawing or building things, cooking or baking together, maybe starting a small garden.
Things that don't cost much but build connection.
Exactly. These activities not only enrich children's lives in the moment, but they help cultivate values and habits, appreciation for nature, quiet, creativity, contribution that make life simpler and more grounded for everyone in the family in the long run.
Okay, let's transition into another area that, well, many people find surprisingly complicated and sometimes stressful.
Hmm.
Our clothes, our wardrobe.
hmm Especially for women, which is where the source focuses most of its attention on this topic. There's just so much pressure, isn't there? Constantly changing fashion trends. The sheer difficulty sometimes of finding clothes that are functional, versatile, fit well, and actually work together.
The struggle is real. The book offers some pretty straightforward principles, though, for creating a simple wardrobe that aims to cut through all that frustration.
Yeah, the foundational idea is basically make your own rules. Ignore the dictates of fashion magazines if they don't actually serve your real life or your body type.
Be your own stylist.
In a way, yes. The core principle is truly less is more, aiming for a relatively small number of classic, good quality pieces that coordinate easily, rather than having a closet bursting at the seams with trendy items that you only wear once or that don't mix and match.
And limiting your color scheme sounds like a really practical step towards making things coordinate.
Oh, it's presented as a game changer. Building your core wardrobe around just 2 or 3 basic neutral colors that work well together, like black, navy, cream, or gray, whatever suits you. It means almost everything has a much higher chance of working with everything else. Less decision fatigue getting dressed.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You also need to honestly assess your actual clothing needs based on your real life, right?
Absolutely. What activities do you actually do regularly? Are you mostly casual? Do you need professional business attire? Do you need rugged outdoor gear? Stop buying clothes for some fantasy life you don't actually live. Be realistic about your needs.
And the idea of finding your best silhouette, the shape or cut of clothing that genuinely flatters your specific body type.
This is presented as really crucial. Once you identify the styles and cuts that reliably work for you, the kind of neckline, the skirt shape, the trouser cut, you can build your wardrobe around those shapes.
Why is that so helpful?
Because it saves immense time, money, and frustration. You stop buying things that look great on the hanger or the model but just aren't right on your body. You know what to look for and what to ignore.
The book also mentions practical things, like getting professional help if you're really stuck, investing in quality over sheer quantity, and using consignment shops as smart, simple strategies too.
Yes, those are all offered as practical ways to actually execute these principles. Find good quality secondhand. Get advice if you need it. And there's that great little section on the simple purse.
The author's personal aha moment about the weight she was literally carrying around.
Exactly. Her anecdote about hauling this massive handbag just filled with stuff she rarely, if ever, used, and her conscious decision to radically pare down to just the absolute essentials: wallet, pen, lipstick, keys.
Did she manage it right away?
Well, initially she kept a small emergency bag in the car with extras just in case, but eventually she found she didn't even need that most of the time and pared down even further. It serves as this perfect little metaphor, doesn't it?
For carrying unnecessary burdens.
Yeah. How much unnecessary baggage, literal and figurative, are we all carrying around day to day without even realizing it?
Good question. It sounds like the book does briefly touch on men's wardrobes, but maybe doesn't go into the same level of detail or specific principles as it does for women's. Is that right?
That's correct. The really deep dive into wardrobe philosophy and specific principles in the source is primarily focused on the complexities often faced with women's clothing and fashion pressures.
So we've covered a lot of the external actions: clearing your schedule, decluttering your space, simplifying interactions, routines, even your wardrobe. But the book makes a really powerful case that simplifying also has this profound internal component. It's not just about the outside.
Absolutely. It introduces this incredibly evocative phrase, being lonely for myself.
Lonely for myself. What does that mean?
It describes that feeling, that sense that you've kind of lost touch with who you are at your core, because you're constantly busy, constantly focused outward on being what other people expect you to be. You know, the good spouse, the good parent, the good employee, the responsible community member. The list just goes on, and you lose connection with your actual self and all that doing. Precisely. And the time, the space, the quiet that simplifying creates, that's what allows for that vital inner work to happen.
What kind of inner work?
Well, the book suggests that freed up space allows for solitude, which is crucial for journaling, maybe seeking counseling if needed, for addressing addictions or unhealthy patterns, for learning forgiveness of self and others, for consciously developing gratitude, for simply taking the time to understand your own big issues, whatever those might be for you.
So the time created by simplifying externally allows you to finally turn inward.
Yes. To address these deeper aspects of yourself that the sheer busyness of modern life often pushes aside or helps us avoid.
And the book even suggests that perhaps one significant, maybe subconscious, reason we keep our lives so hectic is precisely to avoid looking inward.
It's a really striking idea, isn't it, that busyness can serve as a kind of deliberate shield against introspection, against facing uncomfortable truths or unresolved issues. Simplifying effectively removes that shield.
Which could be scary, but also freeing.
Exactly. The book reiterates that this whole process, this turning inward, can open up entirely new possibilities for your life, including potentially significant shifts like career changes. Because you're no longer operating at that breakneck pace, you can gain a completely different perspective on what's truly important and what fulfillment really means to you.
And it even references your money or your life again here.
Yes, specifically in that context of fundamentally rethinking the connection between your time, your money, and your overall life satisfaction. Simplifying give you the headspace to ask those bigger questions.
It's not just about your own fulfillment in isolation, though. The book notes feedback from a reader who felt simplifying only solved, like, half the problem. What was the other half?
The other half, according to that reader, was considering the needs of others, engaging with the wider world, contributing beyond yourself.
So, service, volunteering.
Right. And while the book acknowledges the importance of this, it also offers a slightly cautious view. It advises against immediately rushing into extensive external volunteering if you're still feeling personally depleted or overwhelmed from your own life.
Kind of a put your own oxygen mask on first idea.
Exactly. It emphasizes the old saying, charity begins at home, meaning focusing on your immediate family, your close relationships, and your own well-being first is often a necessary foundation before you can effectively contribute more broadly without burning out.
Which brings us right back around to the importance of those key relationships we touched on earlier.
Precisely. The source fundamentally reinforces that despite all the external pressures, all the temptations to accumulate more and be constantly busy, our close relationships with partners, children, family, dear friends, these are often our top priorities. And they require our most valuable, non-renewable resource, our time. They shouldn't be taken for granted or shortchanged in that relentless pursuit of having it all.
So, to kind of bring this whole deep dive full circle then,
Yeah.
living simply, according to this source, it's fundamentally about making deliberate choices. Choices to cut back on the just overwhelming number of options, obligations, and distractions that modern life constantly throws at us.
Yeah, it's really about creating intentional time and space in your life, purposefully, so you can actually focus on and, importantly, enjoy what truly matters to you, deep down, rather than just being constantly swept along by external demands, expectations, and temptations.
And the book is very clear, isn't it, that this isn't some one-time fix. You don't just do simplicity and you're done. It's presented more as an ongoing process.
Absolutely. It might feel challenging initially, maybe even uncomfortable, especially when you're changing habits that are deeply ingrained or pushing back against societal expectations of busier is better.
Right.
But the author assures readers that it does get easier as you build momentum, as you start to feel the benefits. It's presented much more like an adventure, really, an ongoing adventure of rediscovery.
Leading, the book ultimately argues, to finding greater depth and meaning. Finding it maybe in those quieter, simpler moments that you now have space for. Feeling more in control of your own life, your own choices. And ultimately finding a greater sense of happiness and genuine fulfillment.
Yeah, and the author uses this really beautiful phrase near the end about the magical, almost exponential quality about time.
Exponential, how so?
The idea is that once you manage to consciously free up even a small pocket of time, maybe that first 30 minutes you carve out, just to think other ways to free up even more time will start to spontaneously occur to you. It's like opening a door, and then you see more doors.
Ah, so getting started creates its own momentum.
That seems to be the promise. Which leaves us with maybe this final thought for you, the listener, to consider, based on the source. What small pocket of time could you potentially free up, starting maybe today or this week? Even just 15 or 30 minutes. just to create a little space to pause and think about your own life, your own priorities, and what new possibilities, what new insights might simply creating that tiny bit of space begin to unlock for you.